All right, so let's talk about cryptocurrency exchanges. I want to kind of give you an introduction to this because we're going to build a cryptocurrency exchange in our capstone project. So why are we going to do this? Well, because an exchange is a real-world use case right now, right? That can be used on the blockchain. It's going to introduce you to all the fundamental concepts of, working with blockchains, working with currencies, working with smart contracts, working with decentralized applications. It's going to expose you to all those fundamentals that you can use to build any dApp, right? To build anything with the blockchain, right? And that's why we're going to talk about this. And so we need to understand how a cryptocurrency exchange works or how any financial exchange works in order to build one. So that's what we're going to go through in this video. So specifically, we're going to talk about a decentralized exchange because that's what we're going to build. So what is a decentralized exchange and how does it work? Well, a decentralized exchange, works a little differently from other types of financial exchanges or other cryptocurrency exchanges. And that's because a decentralized exchange is powered by smart contracts. There's not really any central entity that's, a human entity that's going to control it. It's going to be controlled by a smart contract. So there will be an entity, but it's going to be a program. It's going to be on the blockchain, and we know exactly how the rules are going to work. We know exactly how the money that flows through the exchange, where it's going to go, what it's going to do. Whenever a trade happens, whenever we put money into it, we know what's going to happen. We can trust it, okay? It's going to run by itself, fully and completely autonomous on the blockchain. So now the developer who created it will charge fees, and that's going to be part of the contract, though. We know that's going to happen, right? But we know that they can't tamper with the smart contract or change how it works once it's on the blockchain, right? So we're going to create the smart contract, and it's going to be on the blockchain, and we're going to create a client-side application that talks to the smart contracts on the blockchain. So, theoretically, if you want this to be completely decentralized, anyone could, take our client-side application and run it themselves on their own computer. They could inspect the code. We could create an open source copy, and they could, run it themselves, right? Or just for ease, they can use ours that we put on a server somewhere, right? So we could have multiple options if we want to be fully and completely decentralized. But starting with a smart contract is a pretty good starting point. All right, so let's talk about some exchange fundamentals. So exchanges support markets, and markets are basically made up of trading pairs. They're the two assets that are being traded for one another, right? So you'll see this a lot if you ever used a cryptocurrency exchange like, Coinbase or Coinbase Pro or GDAX or Poloniex or whatever, Binance. Basically, let's talk about, a trading pair you might have seen, like US dollar to Bitcoin, right? USD to BTC. That just means that, you're purchasing Bitcoin for US dollar. And in our case, we're going to see cryptocurrency trading pairs. And specifically in our use case, we're going to see trading pairs where we're trading Ethereum for tokens. And we're going to use a fictitious token called dApp token, which we're going to build in our capstone project as well. And this is going to be our main trading pair. Ethereum, Ethereum's native cryptocurrency, or ETH or Ether, we're going to be trading with for dApp tokens. And it's going to be an ERC20 token that's going to be the central token for our exchange. All right. So how are users going to use the exchange? Well, step one, they're going to deposit funds into the smart contract. This can be Ether funds or token funds. Step two, they're going to make orders, right? And step three, they or someone else can fill the orders that we create. And then step four is they can withdraw the funds. They can withdraw their profits, or they can cancel their orders and take their funds back, whatever they want to do, right? But those are the sort of different operations and actions they can, take on the exchange, okay? So let's talk about deposits. First they're going to deposit some funds into the smart contract. This can be, Ether funds, or it can be tokens that they want to sell, right? Next, they're going to make an order. They can create a buy order or a sell order. The buy order basically just means that, I want to buy some tokens, and sell order basically just means I want to sell some tokens. And in a buy order, we'll talk about that more in just a second. So all the orders on the exchange are going to be limit orders, which there are, a few different types of orders. So like a market order versus a limit order. A market order would be like going to the exchange and saying, I want to buy, 10 Bitcoin or 10, tokens, whatever, and I want it to be filled instantly, right? And an exchange is going to do that for you, and that usually comes with a hefty fee. But we're going to do limit orders, which basically just means that we're going to create an order, and someone else needs to be on the other side and match that order, right? The exchange isn't going to match it for us, someone else needs to, okay? So we can look at this more from the perspective of the order book. So once we create an order, it's going to go into the order book. And the order book is going to show, you can be sorted into buy orders and sell orders, all right? So generally speaking, it's a buy order if they want to receive tokens from the trade or give Ether. And generally speaking, it's a sell order if they want to receive Ether from the trade or give tokens. And this terminology can vary depending on the context, and we'll see that while we're building the exchange. But that's generally how we're going to talk about the orders from the context of the order book, right? You can see them sorted by buy orders and sell orders. You can see the amount of tokens in the trade. We can see the price, and we can see the amount of Ether in the trade. Okay. Let's talk about price. So price is expressed as a ratio of the amount of Ether per token. And that's really how anything is priced, is just the ratio of the value of each asset. So let's take an example. If you want to buy a cup of coffee for $1, then, you basically, divide that by 5 units per $1. Then you express the price as, $5 per 1 cup of coffee, or 5, units of $1 per 1 cup of coffee. So it's a ratio. It's a 5-to-1 ratio. So similarly, if you want 100 tokens for 1 Ether, it's expressed as a ratio. It's 100 tokens per 1 Ether. Or alternatively, you can derive the price the opposite way and invert the ratio and say that 1 token is equal to 0.01 Ether if you were to divide it out and express it in decimal fashion. And this is the ratio that we're going to be looking at on the exchange. Basically, tokens to Ether, and we're going to see these decimal amounts listed on the exchange, like we saw in the previous example. These are the prices right here, and that's how we create the prices. All right, let's talk about filling orders. Now, whenever we fill an order, there's going to be a maker and a taker. So the maker is always the person who created the order, and the taker is going to be the person who is filling the order. And like I said, this terminology can also vary depending on the context and the exchange, all that kind of stuff. But that's what we're going to use for our specific use case. So there's also going to be fees, right? So the fee is going to go to a particular Ethereum account. And for our use case, it's going to be the account that deployed the smart contract to the network, the developer. And we're going to take fees from each order. And the fees are going to be taken from the asset that's being sold in the trade. All right. So remember, I said there's a buy order and a sell order. So whichever asset's going to be sold in that case is where the fees are going to get deducted from. Okay. All right. Let's talk about charts. So you're going to see a lot of charts on cryptocurrency exchanges, and sometimes they're confusing. So I want to clear up what these charts are, what they do, what they represent, and how you can read them. So we're going to create one chart in our cryptocurrency exchange. That's going to be the candlestick chart. This is an example. So what is a candlestick chart? It's one of the most popular types of charts on financial exchanges. So let's talk about how it works. Well, it's called a candlestick because you can see basically that it's got, these candle bodies and wicks, right? It looks like candles, and, they go on top and on bottom. But that's, why it's called that. So each candlestick corresponds to a certain period that you can, specify on the exchange. And basically, this represents the price of the currency through the period. And there are 4 sort of points here. There's this point. Well, sorry, let me find a bigger candle. You can see 4 different data points per period. Here's a data point where the bottom of the wick, terminates, where the bottom of the candlestick body terminates, where the top of the candle terminates, and then where the top of the wick terminates. Those are 4 different values. This value, this value, this value, and this value. Okay. And also the color. So let's talk about what each of those means across time. So, well, also look here, we can see time. So these are basically hours. So here's a 4-hour period because it's got 4 candles. And we see the time here. So that means, grouped across this hour, here's 4 values. Grouped across this hour, here's 4 values. And on our exchange, we could hover over these and actually see the data. So what does each candle mean? Well, there's 4 points, like I said, here, 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 and here. So it's 3 regions, the upper shadow, the body, and the lower shadow. So the 4 data points are the high, the open, the close, and the low prices. So what does that mean? Well, the high is the highest price of the asset sold during that period, okay? Now, the top of the candle is the open price. So during that period, what did it open at? Or the bottom here would be the close price. So what was the last price of that period? And the low is what was the cheapest price during that period, right? And, the candles can go up or down, and that's what the color represents. If the candle's green, then the price went up. If the candle's red, then the price went down, okay? All right, so that's an introduction to how exchanges work and how, this decentralized exchange works that we're going to build in our capstone project. This exchange is going to be powered by an Ethereum smart contract that's going to give you all the fundamentals that you need in order to become a blockchain developer.